I'm honestly pretty mad at myself for not finding any pink, like, to wear for seeing this. So, either way, I found a red shirt. I feel like it's close enough. I don't have any, like, pink tinted glasses or anything like that. But either way, I feel bad because I couldn't find anything. But I do feel good because last night I watched Barbie. I don't need to tell you what the Barbie movie is. I'm sure you've heard about it already. The whole thing of Barbenheimer has been a phenomenon and has, honestly, in my opinion, already etched itself into, like, pop culture history with how big this past weekend was for both movies. Getting a writer and director like Greta Gerwig onto this kind of movie was gonna get eyes on it. Her past couple movies have been nominated for Oscars, but honestly, it's more unfortunate in my eyes that a huge like blank void in my movie watching stuff that I have not seen Lady Bird. I've seen her version of Little Women and I like it a lot. I need to watch Lady Bird though, so that could entirely discredit my thoughts on this movie. On top of that, this is the first time Mattel is really getting into the movie making business. On top of Barbie, there have like other like movies based on their product going into development. The weirdest one out of all of them is that Daniel Kaluuya is doing a surreal A24-esque take on Barney the Dinosaur, and he said it's very inspired by Charlie Kaufman, which I don't know what that means, but I am very interested in that. This also kept grabbing headlines with how many people were in this movie. Of course, casting actors like Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie as your Ken and Barbie are just gonna get eyes on everything because people like those actors. I feel like this is also finally Ryan Gosling's first really huge break, because I like Ryan Gosling as an actor. And even after La La Land, it feels like something was still off with him, in my opinion. I feel like this was the role he was born to play, but we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Barbie, the movie, in this form, was a pretty huge risk for Mattel and Warner Brothers, where Warner Brothers was, or still is in a couple of areas, very much in debt and on the verge of bankruptcy. And I wouldn't be surprised if Barbie just saved Warner Brothers. I'm not going to go into spoilers for this review, mainly because, yeah, there are a bit of spoilers for this in terms of, like, what happens in this, who's playing who, the overall plot of the movie as well, because a good chunk of it was hidden in the trailers, although they kind of revealed it in the most recent trailer, but I'm going to try and, like, be limited in details with that. The overall gist of the movie is that Barbies and Kens are off in this other section of the world, which is Barbie Land, built by Mattel. They're all living there, and the main Barbie, or as they call it, stereotypical Barbie, played by Margot Robbie, starts having thoughts of existential dread. And that's the plot of it. So to fix that, she has to go out into the real world to see what's going on out there. Maybe it's something in the real world that's affecting her. And Ken goes with her, and he finds out about everything over there. I have to get this out of the way now, because when I say that I think Barbie is one of the most risky blockbusters, I guess, in terms of the budget of this movie, since, I don't know, The Last Jedi, is insane because you're using a pretty big brand like Barbie, obviously not as big as it once was, but you're using a brand like Barbie to tell the story about the meaning of life and how we are going about the world and like just like thinking about death. That's the big thing, thinking about death and how like you ever feel like dying, and using that to tell us, using dolls essentially, a doll brand to tell a story like that is, I think it's genius. My words are getting twisted up about this because I'm kind of shocked that this went forward. Of course, that's not the only aspect of this. There's a lot happening in terms of like what this movie wants to say and the message of this movie, and that's why I'm talking about it first, because it is such a huge part of the identity of this movie that it is very unabashedly feminist. I don't think it's wrong to say that, whether you think like, I'm not trying to get fully political here, but whether you agree or disagree with it, I think that Barbie is a pretty feminist movie in the grand scheme of things. What I personally was worried about going into this is that that was all it would be, or if it was not, it was just on the surface and too much of it was wrapped up in that. Honestly, I can't believe I doubted Greta Gerwig and also writer of this, Noah Baumbach. They wrote this together. I can't believe they doubted them because they did an incredible job writing this movie from an actual writing perspective. In particular, there is this monologue from America Ferrera's character, which is in the second half of the movie, that addresses the stereotypes of women and that they need to be broken, but they can also be good in some aspects, and it's towing that line of that, and I think it was genius. Everything about this balancing act, essentially, of gender politics that has been rampant in life as well as Hollywood, and the fact that this movie toes it so well in that it just works. I'm trying to figure out how to be be more in depth with this. I can't really put in the words just how incredibly well written this was, and just yeah, I'm kind of speechless about it if you can't tell. I think this is probably going to go down as one of, if not the best written movie of the decade. And I can't believe I'm saying that about Barbie. But I'm not saying that just about, the heavy-handed jokes in this, well, heavy-handed topics in this. It's also very fucking funny, which is where I'll go into pretty much everything else about the movie, because the actual politics of this is so, in-depth. There is going to be, in-depth analyses, I don't know how it works, but there's going to be so many videos that come out. I'm sure they're out now, but I think when it comes out on digital or streaming, there's going to be in-depth analyses about how well this movie treats its politics. I keep getting sidetracked. I think this movie is very funny. Nearly every joke landed with me. There is a couple bits in here that I just think are incredible. I'm gonna name a couple of them, just not spoiler-wise. There's one, because this has a pretty good soundtrack as well. One of the songs by Lizzo on there actually changes in the movie to, reflect what's going on in a scene, and it is really funny. I'm sure if you've heard anything else about this movie, it's that Ryan Gosling is pretty great in this, which is not wrong. I think this is the best I've seen him in any movie, from this kind of performance. Won't be surprised if he gets nominated for an Oscar. But I'd also like to put up Margot Robbie and America Ferrera both on that same tier. I feel like this is probably Margot Robbie's best performance as well. There's this whole thing about her and her Barbie's like crisis, and she's towing that line of the shock of feeling those emotions for the first time and also balancing those actual emotions, and it is really incredible stuff. Again, with America Ferrera, mainly because of that amazing monologue that I mentioned earlier, that I just think she did a great job, and if she's not nominated for this movie, I'm gonna be very upset. All the Barbies in this are also really funny as well. I forgot to put them down on a list, because there's a lot of people in this, but Issa Rae was President Barbie, Kate McKinnon was Weird Barbie, Hari Neff, who I just saw in The Idol and I didn't know, she was Dr. Barbie and was very funny in that too. I think pretty much all the other Kens too were very fun in their own dumb sort of way, and something I really noticed until before recording this video, of course there were those gender stereotypes in the 50s of the men went out and worked and did their own thing, and the women just stayed home, were the housewife or the mother, and they flipped that in this completely. And it's something that just dawned on me as I was recording this. And again, I think that was incredibly funny. There's a couple other actors that I want to shout out in this too, since there are so many people in this. Again, I've said that many times. Ariana Greenblatt plays America Ferrera's daughter in this, and she is basically the dark and edgy tween, who calls Barbie a fascist in this, which was one of the hardest laughs in the theater. I also wanted to shout out Will Ferrell. I will say that the scenes that he's in with the Mattel CEOs are like my least favorite parts of this, but I think it was funny enough for me to go, okay, I don't think I could go without them. But it was also nice to see like Will Ferrell be funny again, because I've got a soft spot for him. I used to love that style of humor, but then there was just this string of movies he did in like the 2010s, like, you know, your Get Hards and your Holmes and Watsons, that just didn't really work for me, or either that were not funny or just plain bad. And to see that he can still be funny when he has the right material just makes me very happy. I'm also going to shout out Rhea Perlman. I don't know how much she has been in the trailers, but she has a very small role in this, but has a very beautiful scene at the end. I'm not going to spoil who she's playing, because I didn't know this going into it, who she was playing. But it was very beautiful. The technical aspects of this are also really stunning. The production design and Barbie Land as a whole was very incredible. It reminded me of old Hollywood and just how those sets were entirely like built and all this different, like all the different elements coming together for this. It felt like a diorama almost, but knowing that these were fully built just makes me feel really, it makes me feel happy inside. Even the sand on the Barbie beach was pink. So, I don't know, there was a shortage of pink paint for a reason. I mentioned the music earlier. I also think the music is pretty fun. There's a song by Pink Panthers in the soundtrack that I really like, and I'm sure you've heard the Nicki Minaj and Ice Spice one, which is fun. I'm in the middle of editing this video, and I completely forgot to mention I'm Just Ken, the song by Ryan Gosling in this, which is, honestly, might be my second favorite scene after the America Ferrera monologue, which, honestly, just tells you how much of a fan I am of this movie, because I'm Just Ken is probably going to win the Oscar for Best Song, and I want it to, and if it doesn't, I'm going to riot. I guess those are my thoughts on Barbie. This was a huge risk for Warner Brothers and Mattel to sign off on and let Greta Gerwig do her thing, and it paid off damn near perfectly, with an absolutely incredible script from Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, and just the great core performances of Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, and America Ferrera are just really holding it down. And I didn't really emphasize this in the other details. This is a really fun movie. It's not coming off as preachy when it's talking to you about like gender politics and all these other things, but the fact that it just worked this well is really stunning to me. And that I also, on top of it actually being a relatively smart movie and knowing what it's talking about when it comes to its politics and like actually knowing what they want to say and actually articulating it well. On top of that, I also had a big smile on my face the whole time. There was not a dull moment in this, even though the real world aspects were shot like it was a car commercial, which, knowing the meta humor this had, I wouldn't be surprised if that was intentional. I had this as a 9 out of 10 when I was writing it down. I even had it as a 9 out of 10 on my letterbox, but if you caught it like 2 hours before I put this video up, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. I've been given so many 10s this year. I can't believe it. And the fact that I think this fully deserves it is just truly incredible. Alright, since I'm sure you've seen Barbie if you're interested in it, mainly because I won't be surprised if this ends up being the biggest movie of the year with how much money it's making at this point. What did you think of Barbie? What was your favorite joke or your favorite aspect of the movie? Just what was your favorite thing about Barbie? I'm very curious to hear that, because every time I've talked to someone who's seen Barbie, they've mentioned something different that they like the most about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below about Barbie. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. See ya!